Okay, so today's project, we're going to learn how to build this door, this little cottage, cabin, shed door. I'm using it for my workshop slash writing room. And I used, believe it or not, nothing more than 2x4s. So 2x4s across, 2x4s up. I used a 2x6 at the bottom. I didn't use any power equipment whatsoever. It's all rudimentary hand skills. I'm going to show you step by step how I did it. It cost me less than $100. This is the kind of door I'm going to use when I build up. I'm working on a wilderness cabin project right now. That's why I'm doing it without hand tools. Just a tongue and groove in the middle here, floating. You'll see it's very simple when I lay it all out for you. Just keep in mind, now this door is made with 2x4s and yet it still closes like a pro. That's the way it should be. If you take your time and do it right and measure correctly, you should be able to do this with no problem. So go ahead and watch it. If you have any questions at all, send me a note. If you subscribe to my channels, I would be more than happy to answer your questions. I think it's only fair that you have to be a subscriber though, because I put a lot of work into this and I want to help you, but I look for some subscribers. So if you're a subscriber to my channel and you have a question, I will be happy to answer it for you. And heck, I'll even build one for you. But hopefully you can do it yourself. So good luck with it. All right, so the very first step I'm going to make this door without using any power tools whatsoever. I'm going to make this like I was in the woods making a cabin. So the first thing I want to do is make my tenons and my slip joint, which I have on another video to show you a little more detail how I do this, but I'm just going to show you without power equipment. Once I get the width of my door, this is a different door, so it's going to be out of scale, but once I get the width of my door, I can cut my top, my middle, and my bottom horizontal pieces. Alright, and what I've done is I figured out the dimension of my tenon, and then I've just cut, I made a line, and I would just make a series of cuts, like you can see here, down to my line, and then all I have to do is take my hammer and I can start knocking it out. Alright, and that's just basically how you rough it. You gotta be careful if you have knots or something. You want to make sure you don't bugger up your board, so just be careful. Okay, and then once you do that, you'll use your chisel to get knocked down even more. Alright? But even so, it's not going to look like this. What happens is you end up with it like this, and you can still see some lines. So what I do then is I just cross my leg, place my board underneath. Then I take one of my favorite tools in my tool shop, which is a farrier's rasp. This is different than a woodworker's rasp. This is what I use for bow making. And I just like it because it's heavy and it makes quick work of things like this. And you can hold it really flat because it's heavy. And I just knock the rest down. Okay, again, it's still somewhat rough, and then I would just flip it over and use the other side. The final stage to this tenon, once you get all that done, would be to take your chisel and make sure that you get a really good bevel cut back down, okay, on an angle away from that edge. You can see how it slightly angles inward, and the reason you want that to angle down slightly is so that when you butt it up to your joint, it'll disappear. I don't know if you can really see that, but that'll disappear, that joint. Alright, so that's why we do that. Now, just real quick, the slip joint I'm working on right now, I make every slip joint and every tenon unique in that, you see I have A here, so I measured, I just use this as a template to make my mark with a pencil, scribed it all the way around, mark my depth, and I do each pair individually, just in case. See, the problem with mass-produced stuff is it might be a little bit off. It's going to be a little loose on one side, a little tight on another, but if you make each one match each side individually, take your time, you get a nice tight fit, even using really basic rudimentary tools. And so what I did to make this slip joint is I just used my saw. It's about 10 minutes per joint, and I just cut all the way down to that line back here. Okay? Make sure you stay nice on the line, nice and tight on the line, and then once you get it all the way back, you're just going to use your chisel, line it up, just start knocking that out. And like I said, it'll be about 10 minutes, so it'll take you about an hour to do all this, maybe an hour and a half, but why not, right? It's fun. good workout. It's an accomplishment. And I'm going to keep going. And then I'm going to show you how to put this together, how to put the panel in, and how to get a window in there, all with no power cord. All right, so moving right along here. I've got all of my slip joints, tenons, and I've got a couple of mortises I want to show you. They're all cut. I'm just going to assemble this now so that you can see it. It's hot as God knows what out here. I'm sweating like crazy, so I've had to stop a few times. But I'm at a point where I can show you how to assemble this. I've got the two corners already clamped. Now down here, I'm using a 2x6 and a 2x4. You can see this isn't even milled to where the stamp is off. I'm building this with very rudimentary equipment and skills at this point. Just to show you how I would do it if I was making a cabin. So anyway, 2x6, 2x4 on both rails. Then I've got another 2x4 on the top. All right? And then I'm going to put another 2x4 in the middle. And for that one, I'm going to use, rather than that slip joint, what I'm going to do is use a mortise and tenon. All right, so I've got my tenons and I've got my mortise. To cut the mortise, all I used was a hammer and a chisel. Let me show that to you. And I make each one separate. All right, I don't just mass produce them. I mark each one separate, and then I just use my chisel to get in there and make that mortise. Get that camera in there and see that. All right, and I measure the depth. I check my depth, so I make sure everything's done right, and then I move on to the next pair. All right, so let's start to put it together now. Got my glue here. I'm using a Type Bond 3, and anybody that lives down here, I'm in South Carolina, knows that while I'm probably using a Type Bond 3. Type Bond 2 is great, it's weatherproof and all that, but it's so humid here that even if this never gets touched with water, it might as well have a hose on it because humidity, that's why I sweat so much, the humidity levels are so high. All right, now with these joints, those of you who've watched this stuff before know, I want it tight but easy. See that? And this is all cut by hand. So good. You feel it grab, right? I can even pick up, look at that, right? That's with no nails, it's not even dried yet, look at that. Right? But it went in nice and easy. I didn't even have to use a hammer, just tapped it in. That's how you want to cut them. That's by taking your time and measuring correctly. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and put some glue on all my tabs, all my tenons. Try to move through quickly now so you can see it come together. And I think it's really going to make a lot of sense to you. And I'm not going to worry about being too messy because I'm just going to sand it anyway. Right, now I'll put a little bit of glue on this last one down here. And then just tap it all in place. Tight but easy. Okay, now let me get this lined up. Using a rubber mallet. You know, just put a block of wood and use a regular hammer. I want to mar it up too much. Like I said, it's going in nice and smooth, but it's just tight. So take your time and measure right.